Welcome everybody. My name is Martin Gauss. I'm the CEO of airBaltic and I'm live streaming today from our headquarters in Riga, Latvia. Today I will give you a briefing of how airBaltic will fly out of the crisis. And something special for you, you can ask questions which I will answer after the briefing, also live. And for that, you can go on sly.do on the internet, put in the event code airBaltic. You can do this from your mobile phone, you can do this from any internet access you have, and you can already now ask questions, also during the briefing. They will be answered after the briefing. You can write your questions also in Latvian language. We will translate them here, and I will answer them after the briefing in English. So let me start with the briefing, and the first slide I'd like to talk about is that airBaltic was and will be a very important asset for Latvia. We are strategically important driver of the economy of Latvia, and to explain the graph which you see at the bottom of the slide, we have the green line that is reflecting the passenger numbers we carried every month in the year 2019 in 100,000s. At the end, you see the total number of passengers carried by airBaltic was 5.05 million. If we now look at the size of Latvia with 1.8 million inhabitants, then that is a pretty impressive number, and it tells on its own what kind of a driver for the economy in Latvia we are. And looking then at the gray bars, which you see in the graph, you see in January and in February, that is the year 2020 now, that we exceeded the numbers of the year 2019. That was before COVID, and it clearly showed that airBaltic was on a growth path, a very successful growth path, also for the year 2020. But then COVID came and brought a 73% decline in passenger numbers for the year 2020. And if we look at the airBaltic situation in the COVID year 2020, we then dropped and stopped completely flying for 62 days in 2020. The numbers you see in April and May, 2,000 and 12,000 passengers, these were just repatriation flights for Latvia and the other Baltic countries, where we brought back passengers who were stranded somewhere and couldn't come back to Latvia. But the rest of the year, with a slight upturn for the summer before we had to reduce our flying again due to COVID, has made a significant change. Still, in the COVID year 2020, airBaltic carried 1.3 million passengers. So even when you say the worst time in the aviation history, also for airBaltic, we still did our job. And we flew and we connected. We flew more than 22,000 flights and carried 1.3 million passengers. So even in the worst year of 100 years of aviation history, airBaltic was an important asset in connecting Latvia and the Baltic states. The government in this year 2020, the government of Latvia provided all industries which were heavily affected support, and a major support in form of 250 million euro was given by the Latvian government in form of equity to airBaltic to overcome the COVID crisis. This was not needed in January and February because we were on a growth path on our own. This is a help just to get through the COVID crisis, because this investment is temporary and it will just ensure that the very, very valuable asset airBaltic will also be there in the future. If we now look at this asset airBaltic and go into more detail, you ask yourself, so what kind of asset, what are you producing? And if we just take one of the Airbuses A220 we have, one of these aircraft can generate in 1 year around 20 million revenue. If you now say airBaltic has 50 of these aircraft on order, you can do the math and you take the 20 million times 50 aircraft, and you come to 1 billion revenue, so income for airBaltic. And that would be, for example, in our business in the year 2025, when we have 50 of the Airbuses, we would produce 1 billion in revenue. And that alone tells you what an impact airBaltic will have to the Latvian economy. On top of it, I said earlier, we did not get that money as a gift. IPO stands for Initial Public Offering. That means airBaltic will go to the stock exchange. And listing airBaltic at the stock exchange enables our shareholder, the Latvian state, to return the 250 million in form of selling their shares and returning that money. And not only the 250 million can be returned at the stock exchange, depending on how much of the shares will be sold, much more money can come back to the Latvian government. So the asset airBaltic, which was very important, and there was no doubt about it, and it's clearly visible before the crisis, is even more important to take Latvian economy back out of the crisis just because of that very big effect. 2.5% of the GDP of Latvia depends on airBaltic. But I'm talking today not about the past. I'm talking how can airBaltic fly out of the crisis. I show to you how we're going to do it, why we believe we are very well positioned to fly out of this crisis. First of all, our fleet. One of the key elements, we used to have 3 different aircraft types, and we changed when the crisis came our business plan, and we focus only on one aircraft type. It's the Airbus A220. This is a very modern aircraft. It's the most modern aircraft in the world, and it's a very young aircraft. airBaltic has been awarded last week for having the youngest aircraft fleet in Europe, with 2.4 years average age of all of our aircraft, but also worldwide, when 65,000 commercial jets were looked at, worldwide airBaltic has the 5th youngest fleet. So we have a very, very clear asset to take us out of the crisis with the Airbus A220, the most modern and the youngest aircraft. Today we have 25 of these Airbuses. We operate 25 of them. That is the right number because currently we do not fly as much as we want to, but we need to grow, and we renegotiated successful our delivery of 50 Airbus aircraft as a firm order, and we have 30 options, which means we are not only ideally prepared today for taking with our 25 aircraft the business back, we can also grow and well outgrow from where we were before. And that is the reason why we have this aircraft on order and why we will also take this year, for example, a delivery of 7 of these aircraft to come back to a size which airBaltic had before the crisis. Sustainability. The key issue once COVID is over and is out of the headlines in the media, we will return back to a subject, sustainability, which was there before. It has just now been replaced by COVID. It will come back. It is probably for the future one of the most important points. And that aircraft is the most sustainable aircraft in its class available. It not only comes with lower emissions due to a new engine technology of 20% lower CO2 than a comparable aircraft, it also has 50% less NOx, and it comes as the most silent aircraft, also with noise. If you now think about why are these things important, an aircraft is an aircraft, just think about a car you have, and then you are changing it to a brand new car, the latest model of a car you have. That car, being the most modern, would of course do a complete different job for you. First of all, it's new and fresh, so you like it probably more than the old car, but it will have a lower fuel flow, it will consume less, and everything works on this aircraft because everything is new. And on top of it, you even have a guarantee for that new car. So all of these things combined, what you would see in a brand new car, that is what airBaltic has to come out of this crisis, because we have these brand new Airbuses, the most modern, and we had ordered them years ago, and we took delivery, and we take delivery now to maintain our fleet at the lowest possible age going forward into the future. The aircraft itself has also the right size. If we look at some of our ultra low-cost competitors, they ordered many 230-seater aircraft. We deliberately said that our business model, and also for a potential downturn in the future, we want to focus on an aircraft size with 148 seats. On top of that, airBaltic reaching profitable operation already when we fly with around 70% load factor. That means if we have 100 passengers on board of our aircraft, we already fly profits. So again, the aircraft is definitely now the right size of aircraft you want to have, because a lot of the flying has stopped, or there's only a little flying on existing routes. And if you have now the right side aircraft, of course it's much easier to open up a route again. The efficiency of the aircraft, I talked about it, but it's not only less emissions. The aircraft is significantly lighter. The weight of the aircraft is lighter, and therefore the aircraft burns less fuel. And that is a very significant environmental issue, but it is also a cost issue. But not only the fuel of that lighter aircraft is a saving for us going out of this crisis, also that we have with that aircraft less landing charges, because you pay an aircraft for landing the weight of the aircraft, and the overflight charges. So what you are paying if you fly from A to B, these charges are also lower on that aircraft because it is lighter. And then of course for us a very important factor is the range of the aircraft. The Airbus A220 for us is used on the shortest routes we have, which is Liepāja in Latvia, but mainly on high frequencies connecting the two other Baltic capitals, Vilnius and Tallinn. These very short sectors, also for that, the aircraft is perfect to connect to the Riga hub. But on the other side, the same aircraft, without any changes, we can use on long-range operation. And we announced this morning that we will be opening Dubai as a destination as of September. That aircraft is also perfect for us with 148 seats to fly 4 times a week to Dubai as of September. So, short-haul aircraft, long-range aircraft combined in the same aircraft. We don't have to think about it. We have only that aircraft type. One of the key elements for airBaltic, the focus on the Airbus A220 fleet only to take us out of the crisis. If we say the aircraft is an asset, then we have and maybe even more important asset. It's the excellence of airBaltic. Our excellence, which we have shown in the past and been awarded. We have been the most punctual airline over several years in the world. That is a form of excellence which needs an operation which functions very well. What you want coming out of a crisis is a well-functioning operation. So being awarded the most punctual airline, not only we did that in the past, in the COVID year also, and today we are maintaining a world-class leading punctuality. A very important factor because it tells a lot about how your operations go. airBaltic is seen in the world as a very innovative company. Today everybody knows what Bitcoin is, but you remember which airline in the world was the first to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment? It was airBaltic, you can Google this. The first airline in the world was airBaltic accepting Bitcoin. Not in the year 2020. We did that already in 2014. We were innovative. Today, of course, everybody talks about it. But at that time, it was an innovation. But we do much more innovation. Recently, we have a cooperation with LMT here in Latvia. And our pilot academy, our airBaltic training department is working on drone projects there. We are cooperating with each other to improve Latvian LMT's needs, because they are flying these drones, and we can help with our training aircraft. And these kind of operations are innovative, and there will be much more coming. So the excellence in innovation of airBaltic will also be part of taking us out of this crisis. Market leader, we are the market leader. We are the clear market leader in the Baltic states by being the #1 in Lithuania, in Estonia, and in Latvia. And this connectivity which we have built up for the Baltic states, not only for Riga, for all of the Baltic states, we kept it. We kept it in 2020. airBaltic kept the connectivity, the lifeline to all Baltic states was kept by airBaltic being the market leader, the very clear market leader in the Baltic states. It wasn't other airlines coming here to serve in the 2020 the needs of Latvia. It was airBaltic ensuring and even expanding its market leader position in this very difficult time. So having the market leader position and being the #1 connectivity provider for the Baltic states is one of the assets taking us out of the crisis. Safety and health, the top priority already for more than a year, talking about COVID. And we've taken a lot of effort when COVID came. We were the first ones, the first airline to introduce masks for every passenger, well before other airlines talked about it. airBaltic was innovative, handing out an envelope with masks at a time when it was even difficult to get a mask in Europe. We continued our operation with disinfecting the aircraft, and we're still doing this today with many, many measures. All these efforts we took gave us a 5-star COVID safety rating by Skytrax. There's only 3 airlines in the world which hold a 5-star rating on COVID-19. Why is that important to come out of a crisis? Why is such an award important? Because you as travelers out there, you will want to feel comfortable. And I think it is much easier if you fly with an airline which has proven that they do understand your needs for safety and for health in these times while COVID is still with us. So that we see also as one of the drivers to take us out of the crisis. And our model itself, we have been promoting our hybrid model before the crisis, and now we believe it is even stronger after the crisis. What we are combining on our aircraft is a full business class where you have the seat between you and your neighbor free, you have a hot meal, you have all the things in a typical business class. But what we do for the majority of our travelers, we offer for the price sensitive passengers, we are offering an ultra low cost model in the back of the cabin, which means we are combining on the same aircraft with our hybrid model a business class and a ultra low cost economy. And this combination will enable us to go into both markets, because we are a good airline for a business traveler, but we are also a good airline for somebody who is price sensitive. This is the excellence of airBaltic, which is a condition for us to fly out of the crisis. You see there, strong team. What do I mean with a strong team? Why a strong team takes you out of the crisis? Our workforce, today a little bit above 1,000 people, is a highly motivated workforce. They've done the job and they're doing the job. The 1.3 million passengers carried last year, they were carried by airBaltic staff. Our aircraft, all of them are maintained by our technicians, and in the back, the 1,000 people of airBaltic are working very hard to maintain this airline at these very high levels. We had an internal survey about motivation of our staff, and we have reached in 2020 the highest ever result about the inner motivation of our people to work for airBaltic. If you can work with a team which is so motivated and so dedicated in the worst time of the aviation history, that is definitely an asset. And I have to tell you, I'm incredibly proud to be the CEO of that airline, because it hasn't been seen before to work with such a motivated workforce in such an environment. And you can tell this if you go on the social media and you check out the videos about airBaltic and what we do. There was one released this week, a very nice one, where we show the 400 different positions in airBaltic, where you can see what airBaltic does, what excellence we have. That team, and that's all done in-house, by the way, so we do all this filming and all these videos with that team in airBaltic. That highly motivated workforce will be such an advantage for us, taking us out of the crisis, that I can't praise them enough, because I'm really, really proud of my people. We have an experienced international and local management. So we have a balance between the international experience of the aviation industry together with the local experience. And the senior management team in airBaltic, the 11 top management members, they have so much experience that they can take this airline out of the crisis and lead by example. You need leadership in such a crisis. And these 11 people, the top management team of airBaltic, in that combination we have it with all that local and international experience, are definitely a factor to take this airline out of the crisis. Gender diversity, no issue there with airBaltic, right? Because our gender diversity today is 50-50. Half of our staff is female, half of our staff is male. We are not discussing at all any target where airBaltic wants to go in the future. We're already there. And not only that, overall of our staff, people are discussing what kind of quota you should have for the management, that females can be in management. In airBaltic's management, we have 50% females and 50% male. And in the senior management, in my team, in the top management team of airBaltic, we have 45% females and 55 male. That itself is a factor which shows how dynamic airBaltic is already today. We do not have to follow any quota targets. In airBaltic, we do have that gender diversity already. We are living it, and we didn't build it up. It is there already, and we don't need to have that built. We have it. And it's a very, very strong factor for taking the airline out of this crisis. And of course, we need to recruit people, and we will need to recruit many, many people in the future, and we need experts. And what is easier than to recruit if you are the best employer? We have now, for the 10th year in a row, been awarded the top employer in the transport sector in Latvia. Also very proud of it, but it also makes it easier to recruit top talent, because we need talent. I said earlier, we have around 400 positions in our company, different work tasks to do. So all these experts, these high-level innovative jobs in airBaltic, future recruitments makes it easier if you are the top employer. And we are not a startup. This is not an airline which is around for a couple of years. airBaltic is already 25 years of experience. So what we're doing with the background of 25 years of experience, and that of course has taken us through some ups and downs in the past. We have been down already before, and we've worked ourselves out of the last crisis to be a very successful company. We use that experience now to take airBaltic out of the crisis. It's a quarter of a century of experience in airBaltic already in this industry. That alone will help us a lot getting out of this crisis. But to get out of this crisis, you have to have a strategy. And I put there on the slide a clear strategy, because we try to keep things simple in airBaltic. We had a business plan, which was the one taking us to profits, which is called Destination 2025. And all we did, we adjusted that business plan to reflect the new reality and to get out of this crisis, and we called the business plan Destination 2025 Clean. But that is not just a document which some management did, that is the document which the Latvian government took to take it to the EU Commission to say at the EU, this is what we believe, could you please have a look at it? This is the business plan which will take airBaltic out of the crisis. And the EU Commission, to be able to allow the Latvian government to put in 250 million, looked at it and documented that they see that this clear strategy of airBaltic will lead airBaltic out of the COVID crisis back to success. So this business plan, which was developed in-house, has not just been kept in-house, it has been given out and it has been tested by experts that that is a viable strategy to take airBaltic out of the crisis. What we learned in last year and what we are using now, and it will help us tremendously, you might remember that every Friday SPKC came up with a list of numbers where you couldn't fly to this country, or now you cannot fly to this country. That started last summer, and every Friday evening airBaltic had to cancel flights on the Saturday, and then for the following weeks, and the next week then again things changed. We did that for a very, very long time. It was very, very painful, but we learned a lot out of it. We were able to adjust within days our network and to different scenarios. And what did we do? We developed for this year, as it is not clear yet how this development comes, 5 different budget scenarios, where each of them reflects a different way how vaccination in Europe will work and how airBaltic then will adjust to get out of the crisis. So we are not just following one plan, we are having 5 different scenarios on how this crisis could for us end, and all of these scenarios are part of our Destination 2025 Clean strategy. So with that we are able to say if vaccination comes at this time to this level, then airBaltic's performance will be like this. Because it's not us to decide of what we fly at the moment. The vaccination levels in Europe are deciding of what airlines can do, because most of the countries have restrictions in one form or the other. Riga hub, strategy very clear. Riga in the Baltic states is the biggest airport, and it's the only hub airport. Hub means you are coming to this airport and then you're connecting to another airport. Take the example, you're flying from Hamburg to Riga, but you don't stay in Riga, you are transferring and then you are flying to Tbilisi. Riga hub functions then as the connecting hub, and airBaltic does both. We fly a passenger who just wants to go from Hamburg to Riga. That is a point-to-point passenger. But we also take the passenger who wants to go from Hamburg to Tbilisi. And our business traditionally is 50% of the passengers are flying through Riga hub and they transfer in Riga, and the other 50% are point-to-point. And part of our strategy is the point-to-point traffic which we offer from Tallinn and from Vilnius. From there it's point-to-point, and what is not offered from there goes through Riga hub. And in Riga we have the hub which offers, of course, a much wider variety of routes. And that is strengthening Riga as the #1 place for aviation in the Baltic. Distribution channels, how can you buy a ticket on airBaltic? Ideally, you do it on the website. That is also the most preferred channel today, but things are developing. We still rely on all other distribution channels, so you can still buy a ticket with airBaltic in the travel agency in a traditional way. But also, a lot of our tickets are not sold by us, they are sold by codeshare partners. Codeshare partners are other airlines, and we have recently closed that with Lufthansa, we have it with KLM, we have it with Air France. Codeshare means you fly, airBaltic is flying the flight, but Lufthansa, for example, is selling on their website the ticket on airBaltic's flight. And with that, of course, they are doing the job in Germany, where they are the dominant and big airline. They are doing that sales job for us, because airBaltic cannot be in all the countries as strong as the national carriers or the other carrier in these countries. So that is also part of our strategy to maintain these 22 codeshare partner relations. And the ultra low-cost carriers, let's take Wizz Air, take Ryanair, which are also coming here to Riga. They are just doing point-to-point. They are not sold by other airlines. They're just flying from A to B. But airBaltic is completely different. Our strategy is completely different. If you look at the 75 destinations which airBaltic offers from this summer, nobody else offers that. Competitors offer occasionally a point-to-point, but nobody will ever in the future offer a hub in Riga. That is something airBaltic has built up, and that is the strength of Riga as the Baltic aviation hub. Trust from the capital markets. We have issued a bond of 200 million, the largest bond at the time issued in the Baltics. That was issued by airBaltic because the capital markets trust it. You know, bond issuing means people going with a microscope to look into your planning and your number. They're going very deep into all your planning, in all your numbers, in your future ambitions, into our business plan. And only when international investors, and they were from 25 countries all around the world, from Asia, from the US, these investors trusted in airBaltic, and today, if you look at the bond of airBaltic, just today, our bond is trading at 92, above 92 today. That is an immense trust of the capital markets in airBaltic today. So the bondholders today trust, the international world trusts very much in airBaltic story going forward. And the capital markets are also needed when we go for the stock exchange to list airBaltic on the stock exchange, because it's going to be the same investors who are going to invest in airBaltic shares. So that trust is part of our strategy going forward. And talking about the international investors, that picture here was taken in New York at top of the rocks, seeing the Empire State Building in the back. And what it says on this award, we got awards, many awards, but that is probably the most prestigious award airBaltic received in 2019. It's the Air Transport World Award for the airline market leader of the year 2019, and that is airBaltic from Latvia. We got that awarded in New York. CNN, we were on CNN. airBaltic from Latvia was on CNN. We were awarded in front of all airlines of the world of being the market leader, doing the best job to become the market leader. Nobody doubts the global brand recognition, because there is no other brand in Latvia which is so well known than airBaltic and which is so strong internationally. It's not always in Latvia seen as that because everybody knows airBaltic, but we are very, very well known internationally. We are known in the TV in New Zealand and Australia. We are known in Hong Kong, but we are also known in the US. And that is very important to take airBaltic out of the crisis, because you want to be known as a global brand. But we are not out of the crisis yet, so there's some last steps to do and to get out of the crisis. Key is now the vaccination levels need to increase in Europe and in Latvia, because we are flying all over Europe. So as the vaccination levels increase, more and more people will get their freedom back, and of course will get their freedom back to travel. And we don't pick any specific country here because we are a European carrier based in Riga, Latvia. But we, of course, depend on the freedom of people to move around. And there is so much pressure now. You can follow in the different medias in Europe how much willingness, how much demand for people is there to travel again. And we, airBaltic, are ready to take all of that demand, but it has to happen in a safe and coordinated way. And for that reason, we are working on rules like digital health pass, the green pass, which is coming by different European governments. But we also work on something, we're trialing it, the IATA travel pass. We want to simplify again how you can get on board. Today, if you have traveled recently, it's a bit complicated procedure. We want to ease it. We want to make it safe for the governments to rely that flying is something safe and coordinated, but we also want our passengers to feel safe. And I clearly say you don't have to have a vaccine in the future to travel, but you will have to have something which enables you to travel. And to combine that information, the ideal solution will be a document which you, as you have a boarding pass on your mobile phone, you will then have that information flying into your test certificate if needed, or your vaccination pass, or your other information. They are flying into that app, and then with that app you identify yourself as you are green to go, and then travel will return. So these last steps have to happen. We can help to innovate. We are helping. We are working with the government on this. We are involving ourselves on IATA level globally to get that going. But these are the last steps before we are out of the crisis. And this success story which we had, and we will have again, is not only the airBaltic success. This is the success of the whole of Latvia for everybody. For the restaurants in Old Town, which at the moment looks more like a ghost town. This is for Kuldiga. This is for Cēsis, for the tourism. And this is for the restaurants, for the hotels, for the whole of Latvia. The whole economy depends on us. So the success of airBaltic is the success of Latvia. And with that, I conclude my presentation with one picture which makes me again proud when I see it, because it reflects 3 of our aircraft in the 3 Baltic states colors. That is something airBaltic stands for. We are connecting the 3 Baltic states, and we are showing this also in the COVID times to the whole of Europe by flying these aircraft and maintaining the connectivity for the Baltic states. Thank you very much for listening to the presentation. And now I'd like to remind you that you can ask questions. I see already the first questions there. If you haven't followed the slide where it says how to get there, it's sli.do, sli.do on the internet, and then you put in the word airBaltic as an event code, and then you can ask your questions. And what I will do, I will read the question, I have it for me in front of a monitor, and then I will straight away answer it. The first question is, feel free to ask a question that is actually to you. And now the first question is, what load factor do you expect to see on flights to Dubai? And do you have any plans for partnerships in Dubai? We expect load factors for Dubai. We will have flights which will be sold out, as it was in the past, to Abu Dhabi, and we will have high average load factors. I can't give you a precise number. Hopefully all the flights are full, but most of the time in the different seasons the flights are full. We have, of course, partnerships as everywhere in the world, and we are working on different partnerships. Is it with tourism authorities or with airlines? So we do this in general wherever we fly in the world. We are working on partnerships. The next question is, how do you see airBaltic's future in a context with building of Rail Baltica? That is a very good question, because I think Rail Baltica is to come, and it will come, and we're looking forward to it, because it is an add-on and it is needed for airBaltic and for Riga Airport. There will be one station at Riga Airport, just 200 meters away from the gates. So the closest, I think in Europe, it will be the closest from the train to the gate. And you can imagine what a boost that will be in 10 years' time when Rail Baltica is here for our connectivity, because then we can bring a lot more passengers in a very convenient way with Rail Baltica from the different cities to connect at Riga Airport. So we are a strong supporter of Rail Baltica. That is definitely the future for the Baltic states. Do you plan to open new routes to Asia, Africa in the near future? We never talk about the route which we opened before we opened the route. The Airbus A220, just this morning again was announced, comes with a further range extension. So the aircraft can now fly from Riga direct to Addis Abeba, where we had Africa. And in Asia we can fly, or it's India, we can fly to Delhi direct from Riga. So these two cities, for example, are reachable with our Airbus A220, but that doesn't mean that we are serving them. When we serve new cities, then in Africa, Northern Africa, of course, we are serving already in form of charters. But when there is a new city, then we will announce this at the time. But the Airbus A220 has now an extended range and we can go even further. Huge thank you to cabin crew Diana from BT 692 on the 14th of March. Your crew is amazing. That goes beyond their duties to help. I like these kind of comments from our passengers because that reflects what airBaltic stands for. Thank you very much. Hello, how fast would airBaltic be able to resume operations at full capacity? We have at the moment 25 Airbuses and we have no problem within 2 to 3 weeks to get all aircraft and also man all aircraft because they wouldn't fly at the full utilization. airBaltic keeps all aircraft in a rotation flying, and we also have sufficient crew to ramp up very fast. We keep our crews trained so that we can bring all aircraft back in the air. Have you considered changing airBaltic base location? Seems that at some point flying from Vilnius was much more profitable. No, we have never a doubt that Riga is our hub. Also the airport facilities at Riga and the expansion plans of Riga go in line with our hub in Riga. Yes, we have been very successful in Vilnius and we will be in the future because flying out of Vilnius was possible, but it was not out of other airports. And then airBaltic took the opportunity to earn money out of Vilnius, which we will also do in the future. But our base and our hub is in Riga and will stay in Riga. Hello, Mr. Gauss. When do you think airBaltic is going to be able to rehire old pilots and cabin crew back? I hope in the summer that we can do this because then we will see how vaccination levels go and then we will go beyond our 25 aircraft and we will rehire. We all know that working force makes or breaks an airline. How? Now I lost the question. It jumped. Okay, now we all know that the working force makes or breaks an airline. How do you look at all the people who were dismissed last year? That was probably the saddest moment. If you look at February, where we were growing and did not know how to recruit new personnel fast enough for our expansion, we then had to make a cut, and we made that cut very clear. We had to save the airline. And to save the airline, we had to take drastic steps. And unfortunately, that came with a capacity reduction of 40% of what we were doing at the time. And that also came with a reduction of 40% of our personnel. A very, very sad but needed measure for airBaltic to survive. And therefore, the people who are here today, and I talked earlier about the motivation, they are highly motivated, but I'm very sure that all the future employees, which will be more than we had before, will be joining us in this motivated group of people. Have you cancelled any A220 orders? Are the aircraft in Riga like airBaltic livery 737 and Q400 owned by airBaltic? We have not cancelled any order. We have our order of 50 Airbus A220 and 30 options, but we have renegotiated at what time they are delivered. And the livery of the airBaltic Airbuses is identical, so all of the Airbuses look the same with the green tail and the green engines. Does airBaltic plan to establish its own ground handling at Riga Airport? Currently not. Will you open new bases in Scandinavia with the 30 options? Any ideas about new bases in the future? We said always that the 50 aircraft we need here for the Baltic market, for Tallinn, Vilnius and Riga, and the optional aircraft we would see being placed in the Nordics, and that is still the case. Is airBaltic planning on adding long haul in the business model once out of the crisis with an aircraft such as A350 or hypothetical stretched version of the A220? We are very happy with the A220 today and with the range it has. It is already flying long range for us. We currently are not looking in our business plan at any extension of that or any other aircraft type. Is airBaltic planning, will you bring A321 XLR for long haul? If yes, when, how many and which destinations are planned? As I just said, we are looking, of course, at all aircraft developments for the future. Our current business plan is focusing on Airbus A220 only. When that changes, of course, we will inform the public as well. In your opinion, how long will it take to go back to 2019 levels and to increase them even more? We will see the 2019 levels earliest in 2022, and then, of course, we will be exceeding them. Does airBaltic plan to open new routes from Vilnius? Yes, we did open already 5 last year, and we plan to operate 11 direct flights out of Vilnius as a first step. How has airBaltic employee mental health changed during these struggling times? What are the steps taken to help employees fight and avoid mental health issues? We have a couple of things for that. We have a peer program for our crews and expand it to all people, but we have also internal psychology if needed. So we have several things which are today industry standard in the aviation industry to help our people fight the issues if there are issues. So we have all the standardized programs in place at airBaltic. Is it worse to apply to airBaltic Pilot Academy? It's always worse because you're going to be a future pilot if you apply to the Pilot Academy. Do it, try it. There's a strong demand for these positions, but if you get selected, then you're going to start a pilot career, and times will change, and our industry, of course, will go back to all heights, even if people can't see that today, but we will see significant higher passenger numbers in the long-term future in our industry. How much does airBaltic put back in Latvia every year by tax payments? Over the last 5 years, airBaltic has paid in direct taxes 120 million euros. That's just the last 5 years back to the state. But the GDP impact of airBaltic is 2.5% of the Latvian GDP. If you now look at the impact this has for the state that we are operating, then it's a multiple of we do in revenues. So this goes into the billions over the years. Actually, we calculated that it's going to be 5.9 billion in the next 5 years impact to the Latvian economy. So with that, I think we are one of the strongest companies contributing to the Latvian economy. airBaltic 2019 had negative revenue income against expenses. In 2020, 2021 revenue for sure also will be negative. When do you think revenue will be positive? So the revenue was always positive because revenue is one, but what you mean is the profit and loss. The profit and loss, airlines like to measure themselves on EBITDA, and on the EBITDA we had in the year 2019 a positive EBITDA of 124 million. So the operation of airBaltic was highly profitable. With a forecast reduced number of passengers, now it jumped, with a forecast reduced number of passengers in the coming years, is airBaltic considering to improve the quality of the service by offering complimentary meals and drinks? We have already that kind of a service in business class, but we have an excellent economy class where the passengers can even decide before departure to select out of 75 different meals what they would like to eat, but of course they order them before, or on board there is a different variety. As it comes with the product we offer, we will have, of course, the business class food free, that is complimentary, but we will continue to sell, as most of the low-cost competitors do, if not all, meals and drinks in the economy cabin. That ensures that the tickets we sell can be at the lowest possible price, and if a passenger wants to have a meal or a drink, he can then add this to his cost. Has airBaltic considered any steps to cut down on trash? Yes, of course, we have all sorts of initiatives. airBaltic is, you can look at our sustainability report, which has been published on the website. We are having many innovations in airBaltic, and more and more to come in the future to reduce the carbon footprint of our airline. And the biggest step actually done with the fleet by taking the most modern aircraft. But we don't stop there. We're going to go further. We want to go and electrify more things we can do. And we are working also on things like trash. You recently found an agreement with Lufthansa for code sharing. Is it a first step before joining the One World Alliance? No, because airBaltic has co-chair agreements with 22 other airlines through all alliances, and these co-chair agreements for us are all very important. If we would be joining one alliance, we would probably lose some of the other important partners to us. COVID crisis have hit airBaltic and other businesses hard, no question there. How will this affect new hangar building process? How much this project will cost? It is not affected at all because it will be financed, and the new hangar will be the largest hangar in the Baltic states with 40,000 square cubic meter. And that hangar is needed for all the Airbuses we have to maintain them, but also for Airbuses of other carriers in Europe and around the world to maintain their heavy maintenance. Why? Because airBaltic today is the only airline in the world who is allowed to do heavy maintenance on these Airbuses. So that is a future positive business case for us. The project cost of this are calculated in the business case, and over the years we will be financing that project. Will pilots in airBaltic Flight Academy still be granted a position in airBaltic after completion of the course? That is not the case today, but our intention, of course, is to do so in the future. Dear Mr. Gauss, about these recent PR activities in media, news, social network platforms, etc., is this preparation prior to requesting Latvia for more money? Not at all, because we have a very clear statement out there. We want to go, if we can follow our current budget, if the assumptions of the vaccination levels are there, we will be returning to the government in spring. That could be April, May, maybe later, and then inform about the situation. If we follow the current forecast, we will have sufficient cash also at the end of this year. Again, it doesn't depend on us. The PR activities, and I like it that you noticed out there, because in this time we have to make sure that everybody understands what the situation in the industry is, so that the public support for that very important asset is fully understood. And what we're doing with our PR, we try to explain in different ways that this airline is very important for each and everyone in Latvia and in the Baltic states, because a lot of people do not know 30,000 jobs depend on airBaltic being here or not. A lot of people don't know that their job depends on us bringing passengers, and therefore all the activities you see are at the end of the day there to address the information needs in the public, but of course also to tell our customers what is on offer. Company's new value states: we grow, care and deliver. Old values were safety, punctuality, service. Where has the safety gone? It hasn't gone at all. It is overall is safety, but we had to change after many years, and the safety, there's no doubt about it. Yeah, being the COVID 5-star airline on COVID safety, one of the 3 in the world, being the most punctual airline. On the safety side, there's no compromise, or on the health side. But our values, yeah, we care, we deliver, they both include, of course, also safety and also the growth. We grow, but we got to do it in a safe way with the most modern aircraft, focusing only on one. So I could talk a very long time about safety, because looking at my work here as a CEO of that airline, that is the overriding issue airBaltic is having. There's nothing more important than the safety of the airline. So it stands above our core values. Is airBaltic business economy class suited for flights to UAE, which takes 6+ hours? We have done this very successful in the recent years to Abu Dhabi. As of today, we have announced that we're changing from Abu Dhabi to Dubai, and there's no doubt about it. This is accepted product. It is a 6-hour flight, and we had full flights, so it's a very, very liked product. Hello, 1 year ago there were mass layoffs in airBaltic due to COVID crisis. Will this repeat once more in the following months, or no changes in headcount in 2021? We do need all of our people to fly our aircraft, and it takes quite a while to train a pilot or to train a cabin crew or a mechanic. The mechanics anyway, there are more than there were before, because maintaining all of our aircraft while they're on the ground takes more people than when we can fly the aircraft. Our cabin crew, our pilots, that is a reduced number already. If we would reduce it further, we could not fly our aircraft this summer. About heavy maintenance, have other companies already shown interest to do it? At RIX, will we do heavy maintenance only on Airbus A220, 300 or other aircraft as well? We will do it only on Airbuses, and that heavy maintenance interest from other carriers has been expressed already. Is Dubai replacing Abu Dhabi as a destination, or will you fly to both? It is replacing Abu Dhabi. We are switching to Dubai. The World Expo is starting in September in Dubai, and the connectivity provided out of Dubai to go to Southeast Asia is also better than in Abu Dhabi. So airBaltic has taken that step to change from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. Do you have any chance of changing the seats in business class? You would also always have the change to do that, but our concept is as it is, and we would like to keep it as it is, because the feedback we get also for the business class is very positive, because the passengers who book an airBaltic business class give us the feedback that that is actually what they want. I do know that there's a lot of other business classes out there, but ours actually is, in Europe especially, very much liked. Are there some future plans to lower the ticket prices for airBaltic flights? The market defines the ticket prices mainly, and we are reducing our ticket prices over the last years each year. Of course, if nobody is flying, then it is very difficult, but we see already now for the summer that the ticket prices are reducing again. Hello, Mr. Gauss. Can we use Larnaca flights from Riga for vacation? If we offer a Larnaca flight, of course you can go there. Currently, the Latvian rules do not recommend to travel for leisure, and we have to advise you, but you're not prohibited to travel. How much money does company lose in 1 week? We currently lose around 3.5 million euro. We are losing this money because we have to maintain leasing of our aircraft or the financing of the aircraft, otherwise they will be taken away. We need to maintain the aircraft, that is a heavy cost, but we also have to pay interest to our bondholders, for example, and we of course need to also pay for our personnel. We unfortunately do not have idle pay for our people, which is paid by the government, like most of our competitors in Europe have. airBaltic is paying out of its own cash its personnel. How drones will help airBaltic to grow? The drones is an innovation, and the innovation itself helps us. You might have seen the PR about it, and it just shows the excellence and the speed we can do things. And the cooperation with LMT will help the drone pilots to understand what it means if you are approaching an area with an aircraft, and that again increases the safety dramatically if a drone pilot fully understands what he could do wrong if the drone goes too close to an aircraft. So the innovation that airBaltic is training will help us on top of it, but out of the crisis, the point there was to make that the innovation will help us. Latvia press, example de facto neca personnica Delphi, focuses only about the bad in airBaltic. What is your opinion on that? In general, the Latvian media is not so positive about airBaltic, and that is mainly reflected due to the investment of 250 million, which is seen or not fully understood. Whenever we talk to Latvian media direct, and we have done that recently, then the reporting is very fair. It's a lot of times, unfortunately, that they did not even ask us, they just write something, and therefore that happens. But I have to say overall, and we have a lot of Latvian media which report very positive about airBaltic, and recently we see more and more of this, because I think it has been understood that airBaltic is not responsible for COVID. We're actually doing a great job to maintain the connectivity in and out of Latvia. Without airBaltic, for example, cargo and mail, we carried 7.5 million kilograms of mail and cargo last year. If that wouldn't have arrived in Latvia, the postal system probably would have collapsed. So airBaltic is very important, and I think the media also in Latvia does understand. International media is praising airBaltic for its great job. If you go international media, you see they are praising us of what good job we do, what kind of awards in the COVID crisis we get. We get a lot of recognition internationally. In Latvia, it's a bit lacking behind. Being the most punctual and safest airline in the world is great achievement, and we should be proud for this. Whom should we say thanks for this great success? That is the team I'm so proud of. It's the airBaltic team doing this, and we have to be proud of it because we're really good. Does airBaltic consider having aircraft specially for cargo flights? No. We carry the cargo which we can carry in our cargo compartments of the Airbuses, but we are not having extra cargo aircraft. That is not our core business. At the start of pandemic, airBaltic was first to bring vital medical supplies to Latvia on direct flight from China. Is the established connection operated now? No, we would be able to do that, but that was at the beginning. Today there is specialized cargo transporters who can do this better than us. Do airBaltic employees receive idle pay as was offered by Latvian government? Was this opportunity used? Is it used by airBaltic? It was decided then when we got our equity from our shareholder that we would not be included in the Latvian government's idle pay because they said we should pay this from the money we got. Unfortunately, because all of our competitors in Europe can rely on government idle pay, we could not, and therefore our personal cost per year are taken out of airBaltic's cash. But that's it. That is in our business plan and we live with it. That was a decision of our shareholder, the Latvian state, and we live with this. And to answer the question, that opportunity we could not use. What would you answer to rumors that airBaltic is going to be sold? What about possible investors? There is no rumor. airBaltic is not sold today. There is a plan to take airBaltic to the stock exchange. Then, of course, shares can be sold. When do you think travel restrictions will be cancelled? That is up to the government. There's many countries in Europe which have restrictions in one form or another. Latvia also has them. Of course, we believe that over time, as vaccination levels come back, that restrictions will be cancelled. Hello, how is the COVID situation in the company? How many cases? Are people regularly tested, etc.? Any outbreaks? Please comment on this. Thank you. Yeah, I can make a clear statement here. In the headquarters, we have a very strict regime already for a year. So the people working in the headquarters, they go up to 2 times per week for a COVID test. It's mandatory. Otherwise, you cannot work here. We follow all the Latvian rules. Most of our people are at home. It's only the senior management and some specialists here. The COVID cases in the company, if we now look at the 1.3 million passengers we carried last year, we did 22,000 flights and nobody got infected on any of the 22,000 flights. None of our crew got an infection. Yes, we also have infections, a few people in the company, but they have been infected outside. During the 22,000 flights last year, no of our personnel got infected by COVID on board of an aircraft. That again showing how efficient the ventilation on the airpass with the HEPA filters is. And the situation about COVID in the company, there's no outbreak and we are controlling it with all the measures we can. Is pilot shortage expected after the crisis? No, because there's thousands of pilots now, unfortunately, unemployed all around the world. How does the electrifying of airplanes look for airBaltic in the future? Very interesting project, but we will go one step in between with sustainable aviation fuels, with biofuels. So we will be using biofuel in the first step to mix it with the existing fuel. And later, I would say 15 to 20 years, electric airplanes will take over. And of course, flying the most modern aircraft from Airbus, we are very interested of what is coming next. So our future aircraft then also should be carbon neutral. Is the Boeing NMA interesting for airBaltic overall? You made good experience with a new developed jet. At the moment, we are very happy with the Airbus A220. We don't deviate from this, but we always look at any development in the world and we look at it, but currently we focus on the Airbus A220. How are IATA travel passes working in the first weeks? They are not working with us yet. The IATA travel pass needs to be listed in the Apple App Store. From there, the passenger needs to download it and then we will trial it. That happens at the moment on the 7th of April. That is when the trial starts because the passenger needs to be able to download the app from the App Store before he can use it. What has been the success formula for airBaltic to become one of the most punctual airlines in the world within the last few years? The success factor is that every detail in our operations is coordinated with each other. You cannot decide to become the most punctual airline. You have to work. And the 25 years of experience brought us to get that title once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 years. We got awarded the most punctual airline in the world. And that is hard work done by airBaltic. That's a success story on its own. And that is one of the key drivers, that experience we have to also take us out of the crisis now. Is Russia already agreed to allow flights for Baltic? We expect for the summer schedule that we will fly as of April to Moscow, still waiting for the final approvals here. Same for the Russian carrier. They also have planned to fly, and it's vice versa. So both sides need to agree on the flights, and then the flights start. But yes, we expect for the summer season next week that these flights start. Does airBaltic have any new plans for Prague or the Czech Republic overall? No new plans. Prague is always a destination, and depending now how we get out of the crisis, we are adding all the destinations we had before to our network. Do you plan on painting an A220 in another special livery? Not at the moment. Mr. Gauss, are you planning summer flights to Turkey with test tour? Not at the moment, but that can change. What would be the next codeshare agreement desired by BT? We will not be talking about potential codeshare agreements. We cannot, it's not possible legally, and therefore we will announce it when we have a new one. Will we have flights from Riga to Sochi this year? No, this is currently not planned. How are you keeping team spirit at airBaltic? Your strong leadership is obvious, but what are other key elements? It is not my strong leadership, it's the leadership of my top management team. Each of these senior managers with their group of managers is responsible for that team spirit we have. You cannot have one person. I'm sure inspiring by doing my staff briefing like I talk to you now here. I do that every week already for more than a year to all of our staff. That helps to communicate. Another key success factor is our intranet we have in airBaltic, where we have every day everybody checking it out, and it's so live, the intranet in airBaltic, which informs our employees that we get most of the feedback there, but they also get all the information needed from the intranet. So it's a combination of things which keeps our motivation in the company so high. How such long period when all planes are standing on the ground for a year may affect the technical condition of the planes and safety of the flights? Not at all. That is very important, because we are rotating all the aircraft and we are maintaining, and actually from here I can just see outside parked aircraft, and just now one is taking off. So our airplanes are all maintained, and I said that earlier in the presentation. We need even more personnel on the maintenance side today to maintain all aircraft. For example, on the ground, engines have to be started. They are running these engines, all the hydraulics are switched on, but then also we take all the aircraft and we rotate them, and they are flying to maintain them. None of our aircraft is in the long-term storage. Would agreement with Etihad stay in force after changing Abu Dhabi to Dubai? Any partnership with Emirates, as Dubai is their main hub? We have many codeshare and interline agreements, and these agreements are renegotiated at different times, and an interline agreement enables the passenger already today to fly on most of the other airlines. If there are changes to these agreements, of course they are made public. Will you demand PAX being vaccinated if they want to fly like Qantas will? Not at the moment. It would not be fair, because you cannot decide to have a vaccine, right? So it would not be fair if I say you can only fly if you have a vaccine. Our industry will come up with standards, or government come up with standards, but I think first vaccine has to be available at any corner, at any doctor, everywhere. A surplus of vaccine before you can discuss that. How unfair would it be if somebody really wants to have a vaccine and can't get it, as today? A lot of people would love to have it. And then we say, but you cannot fly, and the other person, which had it and maybe didn't even want it at the time, can fly. So therefore, I can imagine that in the future you have to have something, but before not everybody has access to a vaccine. To make such a rule, I don't see that coming. How much is 2.5% GDP, or how many millions does airBaltic bring to the Latvian economy? As I said earlier, of course, the GDP of Latvia is changing. Currently, it's really going down. But 2.5% of the GDP of the last one published is around 720 million. We said that we will be contributing with our business plan with 5.9 million over 5 years until 2025, so 5.9 billion. That is an assumption of a GDP development. Of course, it depends now how low does the GDP go in the COVID years, and then our impact also depends on how much revenue and how much passengers we bring to Latvia. So the number, we can always look backwards and say what it was, but for the future we just have the prognosis of 5.9 billion impact of airBaltic. Why so high? Because we are growing every year, and for example in 2025 our revenue will be 1 billion, and with that revenue of course we are generating around 10 million passengers. and that alone is contributing to so many jobs and so many business in Latvia that's how we come to that number. How high is the competition in the airBaltic's Pilot Academy? Do you have any advice on successful applying? That is a detail which you will find if you go to the airBaltic training page and go through this application process. And I'm sure that there's a lot of help which you get direct from airBaltic training. No question, but thank you for keeping on flying during the pandemic. Was so happy to fly back to Rix in June last year. Welcome. Have the management considered salary reduction amid the COVID crisis? We have had salary reductions. We still have salary reductions. For example, myself and the executive management cannot have bonus payments for the foreseeable future until 75% of the money given as a help, that's an EU regulation, is returned. I myself did not take any salary for 2 months when COVID came. I did that as a solidarity to the staff. We had to unemploy and make a contribution myself. But we have also taken overall in the management of airBaltic a temporary reduction of 20% of the salary. So we try to lead by example also here. While in fairness, I have to say an employee of airBaltic deserves his salary because he is doing his job, and it was nobody's fault that COVID came. Will airBaltic go to the ACMI market if it will be high demand? Of course, we are already in the ACMI market, and we will always be. If there is a demand for our aircraft, then we will serve that market as well. What passengers percentage are you seeing back to flying airBaltic in 2021, taking into consideration all challenges with vaccinations? I said earlier we have 5 different scenarios, and these scenarios have different assumptions on what is the vaccine levels in Europe, and with that different assumption on what our load factors are. I can't give you a precise number, but it is definitely below the numbers we have seen in 2019. I could now give you for each of the scenarios different numbers, but we are currently in the preferred scenario. So we have already closed January and February where we know we have been better than what we wanted to do, even in these very difficult times. March looks also that we can follow our plan, but it really depends on the vaccination levels in Europe to roll out. We depend on people being able to travel. There's a very, very strong demand. Everybody wants to fly on a holiday, not only Latvia, but currently people are not able to do so because there's a lot of restrictions, and therefore we have to wait for more vaccine to come. How has your marketing strategy and tactics changed during COVID? We have focused completely on social media because that has worked out for us best, and that strategy is working very well. So we use PR, we use, of course, marketing as well, but mainly we focus on social media because that is a channel which helps. This will shift a little bit again also to sell, and of course that is, if you want to sell tickets, we need to be also in other channels. But the strategy during COVID was a focus on social media, very successful. We were able to increase last year in airBaltic every week the followers on the social media channels. So we have today significant more people following us on Facebook and Instagram than we had before the crisis. So we're doing a very successful job on social media. I guess one of the best in the world if you look at size of the airline compared to the engagement on social media. And again, for that we get international recognition. The social media team working in airBaltic is doing a tremendous job to keep that up in these difficult times. Looking at the airBaltic flight schedule on the homepage, I conclude that there are 8 flights today. What are the average passenger load factor on these flights? I can tell you last week, because today is not over. Last week our average load factor was 35% over all the flights. That includes flights which had up to 60% load factors and more, but that also includes flight with 20%. So average was 35%. When will airBaltic do its IPO? Earliest at the end of the year 2022, more likely at the beginning of 23, or then, if the time is not right, later. Dear Mr. Gauss, have you ever considered to implement LTE, long-term evolution, wireless broadband communication technology in aircraft and everyday work? Yes, we are looking at a Wi-Fi solution on board, or such a solution, and we have looked at different providers, but we have not come to a decision to do that at the moment. How does air cargo fit in? We are using our cargo hold on the aircraft. Whatever fits in there, if that is meant, we're going to put in. But I think you mean how does cargo flying fit in for airBaltic? It's not our business to do this with extra aircraft, but it is a very strong and growing business, especially the mail part. Yeah, mail as a cargo. Currently, we are transporting a lot of mail because there's not many flights, and the mail arriving to Latvia, a lot of it comes on our flights. So on each of the flights, we have an average several hundred kilos of cargo and mail. Why do you think about other operators? What do you think about other operators in Latvia, like Rafavia, Smartlinks? Do you think friendship is important, especially in COVID times? Friendship is maybe the wrong word. We are cooperating basically with everybody in the industry and outside the industry. So a cooperation is always there where it makes sense and where it is needed. We can all agree that health workers receive recognition worldwide. Do you intend to do the same for your employees, those who had to leave in order to save airBaltic? They have been recognized, and they are recognized in form of a rehiring guarantee at the time when they left us, which is expiring now in April. Nobody on this planet could imagine how that COVID crisis develops. And if we currently look at the situation, politicians all over Europe have no idea how to fight it in a way that they can say this is the end of it. So therefore the recognition for our people was given in form of a 1-year guarantee to re-employ them first. Unfortunately, that didn't materialize, but the recognition of the people is definitely there, and we in airBaltic take not only the staff we have, also the one we had, very serious, and we want to have all of these people back if we can. Hello, is it known if any part of this public CEO briefing will be broadcasted in local news as well? Just wondering if this will reflect in the news. Thanks. This is a public broadcast. It is available all over the world, so it could be that media is reporting about it. COVID meant a shift to online meetings and remote working. What impact will the decrease on business travelers will have in airBaltic business? We incorporated this in our planning going forward. So we assume that especially the business travel or business-orientated travel will be significantly less in the year 2021 and also in the beginning of 2022. But then businesses need to do business, and therefore people will also travel for business reasons again. But it will be a slower start than the travel for leisure, which we will already see the demands now. Hi, what airBaltic needs to overcome electronic tech lock? Will airBaltic introduce electronic tech lock? So I jump to that second question. Yes, we will in the future. Hi, what airBaltic needs to overcome the COVID-19 turbulence? You need to rewind that whole YouTube thing, because I did that for the first 20 minutes. That was the whole briefing about how airBaltic will get out of the crisis. Do you think vaccination is the key factor to deal with the current crisis? It is currently the key factor because, of course, it would be easier if you could take a pill and it's over, but that is not possible yet, maybe in the future. But my knowledge, which is very limited, sees that having sufficient people with a vaccine, not all, but sufficient people with a vaccine will reduce the infection to a level where a normal life can come back. Unfortunately, in Europe, we were very slow because we did in Europe politically not the right things. Other countries outside the EU did it better. So that is not European individual country. I think this is the Europe as a whole. But now we are ramping up, and I'm very positive that soon there will be enough vaccine in Europe, in all countries. And then with all the vaccine available, we need to go to about 70% of the population being vaccinated. And then a normal life could return, because then the 30% we do not have it will not cause the medical system to be under so much pressure. Do you have a strong presence in airBaltic? What is the other states decide to from your own airlines? How will it impact your revenue? Yes, we of course depend on other countries to open so that passengers can go there. If a country locks down, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to go there, because you cannot go there because you cannot do anything. But that is changing now every week. We just see in Germany, for example, next week reducing everything again because they want to control Easter. So that means there is a pressure on that. But then there's other countries which opened, like Mallorca in Spain, opened completely. So it's very different, it's changing, and that's what I said earlier. We are adjusting, but we depend, of course, on other countries to make travel possible. Profitability at 70% load factor, but it still depends on the proportion of business and low fare packs. Yes, but that's an average number. Of course, on each flight it's even different. Yes, but it's an average number. Mr. Gauss, if some country will receive passengers without PCR tests, will airBaltic ask the passengers to still have PCR tests? No, we are always following what the national regulations of the individual countries are, and we are controlling 100% that this is fulfilled. Then the countries, when you arrive in a country, is asking you to maybe do more, but we are always asking for the requirements, which for each of the countries is also changing every week, and we're trying to adjust and inform the passengers accordingly before the flight. Are we going to airBaltic in southern Sweden in the future? Malmö, for example. We have lots of Swedish destination in our mind, and of course in the future we will also look at any other Swedish destination. I do not see any more questions, so thank you very much for staying so long with me. I hope you enjoyed that very open presentation on how airBaltic will get out of the crisis. And the best thing you could do to follow us on the social media, to follow us in PR, and of course, as soon as you can and you wish, to book a ticket on airBaltic. So thank you very much for staying with us today. Please stay healthy, and I'm sure I'll be back in the future with another live briefing. Thank you.